Dr. Al-Mansoor has come from America to deliver these lectures in the hope that we, the youngsters in England, can once again raise the banner of Islam to its former glory. I don't want to take up much of your time because I also am quite keen to listen to what Dr. Al-Mansoor has to say, and just a brief introduction will suffice. Dr. Al-Mansoor is a recipient of the Phi Beta Kappa Award, which is the highest academic award in the USA. Dr. Al-Mansoor is listed in various who's of the world, and just to give you a brief insight, a few of these are the World Who's Who in Trade and Industry, Who's Who in American Law, Who's Who in California, and the Royal Blue Book of London. Despite this, the most melodious title to him is that he is a Muslim who's a religious activist. The title of the topic tonight is the role of the young Muslims in the Western world, and I'm very pleased, alhamdulillah, that we have quite a few youngsters here. Without much ado, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I call upon Dr. Khalid Al-Mansoor to address us.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmi ad-Din. It's a great pleasure for me to be here this evening. I have to confess to you that the title of my topic may well be the most difficult topic that I will have through the entire lecture tour. I spent some time trying to outline the topic before I came while I was still in the United States. I decided this morning that there was a need to review my structure and to review the content. And so until about 5:30 this morning, I was still struggling, trying to decide what would be the appropriate topic structure and content for this evening. What I found is the problem that confronts the youth essentially stems from two approaches to Islam. There's one approach adopted by some of our elders in the past, and that approach, put succinctly, contends that Allah is in charge of Islam, that Allah has constructed and fashioned Islam as a perfect religion, and Allah will put in process all of the steps needed for the world to become Muslim, and there is very little for us to do but simply pray and fast and wait upon Allah to complete the job. There's another school of thought that says from the Quran, Allah has taught us that Allah will help those who first help themselves, and that there has been imposed upon us an obligation to spend in the way of Islam, and that Allah has endowed us with the intellectual ability to evaluate and to weigh and to implement the plan of Islam, otherwise known as dawah. Now, I must confess to you that my inclination follows the latter group. I believe that when one fully appreciates Islam and the role of the Creator in the universe, one cannot refrain from a measure of excitement. It baffles me how we can watch a soccer match or a basketball game or a cricket match and develop an allegiance to a favorite player or a favorite team, and when that team wins, we express ourselves with great joy just over an athletic contest. But when one recognizes, according to the astronomers, there are 100,000 million bodies that make up our galaxy. 100,000 million. Of greater significance, we are told that there are 100,000 million galaxies that make up the entire universe. And that the Creator of this universe, Allah, has, in addition to the universe, created a religion for all mankind. This day, we are told, art thine enemies in despair of thy religion. So fear them not, saith Allah, fear me. This day have I perfected for you your religion. And I have completed my favor unto thee. It's not something that we merited or that we earned. Allah said it was my favor. I completed it unto thee. And I have chosen for you, for your religion, Islam. How can one contain themselves after recognizing the great gift that we have received? It would therefore be difficult not to want to go out to the senior citizens, to the adults, and to the youth to proclaim the news. The perfect religion is here. And what makes me so excited? In the 20th and 21st century, Islam, in spite of all obstacles, has become the fastest growing religion in the world. Some of the enemies of Islam believed that Islam would be suppressed and gradually deteriorate and disappear. They believed that they could co-opt the Muslims and brainwash them into leaving this great and powerful religion. Even Napoleon Bonaparte, the great French emperor, he went to Egypt and he began to review the history of Islam. And Mr. Napoleon Bonaparte said, I know for a fact there's only one true religion. And the more intelligent people become in the world, the more logical they become, they will go from the process of worshiping idols and many gods to that stage where they worship one God without any intermediaries. interacting with Allah much like Adam in the Garden of Eden. No one in between. Adam and Allah. Napoleon said, I know that's going to happen. He said that the Jews started out on the right track, but they distorted the religion. This is not me, this is Napoleon. And the Christians started out on the right track, but they introduced a trinity, which is three gods. That's polytheism, idol worship, forbidden. But the Muslims, according to Napoleon, have adopted and proclaimed the true religion with no intermediaries. That's the true religion. That's according to Napoleon Bonaparte. Then he added, I long for the day that I will be able to take over Islam and rule the world. We should not be naive. Our enemies want to do one of two things. Either take over Islam to use it for their purposes to rule the world, or destroy it. Either take over Islam or destroy it. One of the early signs of destroying Islam is the faltering of our youth. That's one of the early signs. Young people at very early ages coming to madrasa, learning the Quran, learning the prayers, learning the pillars of the faith, but arriving at 14 and 15 and 16, they begin to disappear. That is the reason that I am here this evening. I would like to talk to the young people as well as the adults regarding the important topic of the young people's role in the unfolding of Islam. The young people have a very critical role. I think it would be a waste of your time to have me come all the way from the United States to tell the young people in this mosque that they need to be Muslims. They hear this all the time. Or that they need to pray 5 times a day. The young people know this. Or that they should observe Ramadan. This is already understood. I think that my purpose in coming is not to repeat those things that we all know, but rather to look at some new frontiers, new challenges, new duties, new responsibilities. How young people today can spend in the way of Allah. This is where we want to concentrate our thought and our energy. We would like to look initially at the challenge of communications. Many religions today are having difficulty with their young people. The Christians are, the Jews are, and the Muslims. All of the religions are studying very carefully to look for a solution. Why are the young people leaving us? And what can we do to maintain their interest and continuity? The first thing we must do is to talk to each other. We must open up a dialogue with the youth. They must feel comfortable in talking to us. They must feel secure in opening their heart to us. They must believe that when they trust in us enough to request direction and assistance, we will not abuse them. In short, we need an Islamic free zone. An Islamic free zone where adults and children and youth can come together and everyone agree there will be no abuse in the free zone. Let the youth say whatever they want. Let them express themselves. We may agree, we may disagree, but let us first let them open up their hearts so that we know and they know there is mutual respect and love. Some of us have borrowed from the past, and we have become so accustomed to ruling and scolding our children like a dictator, they don't open up. We tell them, you do this, you do this, you do this, and don't say anything and don't ask any questions. That worked for us. We were able to adjust to that environment. The young people today have alternatives. If you suppress them, if you emasculate their human desires to communicate, they will go elsewhere to communicate. They will find among their peers people who will listen to them. They will find among their friends at school or at the discos or in the various shops people who will listen to them. And sometimes they will revolt. They will protest against us adults because we haven't taken the time to assure them that we love them, that we respect them. For some of us, it has been a long time since we have taken our children by the hand and simply looked them in the face and said nothing more dangerous than, I love you. Your parents believe in you. We are proud of you. This provides a sense of security and acceptance that is necessary for communications in the Islamic free zone. So if we are reluctant or reticent to invite our children and our neighbors to embrace full communications, let's set up a night in the mosque where it is an Islamic free zone just to come together and exchange ideas and talk. At the same time, we want the young people to know that we understand their energy. We understand their zeal and desire to assert themselves. We understand that sometimes they don't want to take orders. But we're saying to the young people, there is a reason why we must talk together. Because there are some things to you that seem enticing, they seem desirable, they seem almost harmless, but those paths can lead to destruction. There are some people out there who have no greater motive than to see you fail, or to see you on drugs, or to see you divided from your family so they can corrupt you. And it doesn't always appear on the surface. We need to talk together, to share ideas, to base our discussion on reason and logic, not demands and orders, reason and logic. It's through reason that the adults and the youth can find a common ground. Through reason, the adults and the youth can devise an approach that will follow the Quran. Reason. The anchor of that reason is knowledge. This, every Muslim is required to search, even if you have to go to China. It's that important. We have gotten away from knowledge. The colonial experience has caused us to withdraw from knowledge. Because for 300 years, if we had knowledge, we could only get frustrated. There was nowhere to apply it. The colonial system said to us we were inferior, we were nothing, we had nothing to offer, therefore, why pursue knowledge? Colonialism. My friends, colonialism is dead. I understand our temporary hiatus. I understand the frustration of not pursuing those prescriptions that are in the Quran as a result of the colonial experience, frustrating every effort. We didn't pursue economic activity because we were virtually slaves. We didn't pursue education because the colonial system dominated education, told us what we would read, if we could read, when we could read it, and where we could read it. We did not properly pursue the technology that used to characterize the Islamic world. We were known all over the world for our technology. As just one example, one of the most profound rulers of all the dynasties in China was Emperor Wu of the Ming Dynasty. And an interesting book has just been released by the Chinese, by Dr. Ma, which demonstrates conclusively that when the Great Wall of China was built, when the printing press and the gunpowder was implemented during the Ming Dynasty, Emperor Wu, who was the progenitor of the Ming Dynasty, was a Muslim. We didn't know that. We used to know it. We used to teach our children. But the colonial experience cut us off from our history. Emperor Wu was part Mongolian and part Sudanese, and he was a Muslim. His picture now hangs in the Great Museum of China. And one evening during my lecture tour, I'm going to share with you a copy of the great Emperor Wu, as well as part of his life. Tonight, I'm going to keep the picture, but just letting you know it will be a part of the series. Our young people must feel comfortable. We must let them know colonialism is dead. We are now ready, willing, and able to fulfill the destiny of the Ummah. You must appreciate the fact that there are 1,200,000,000 Muslims in the world. We are not alone. We are not isolated. We are not deficient. What we are not networked. We are not cognizant. We don't know our history. Muslims in England do not know about Muslims in America. Muslims in America do not know about Muslims in Germany and Yugoslavia and Russia. And Muslims in Japan do not know about Muslims in Africa. We are saying today 1,200,000,000 Muslims are discovering themselves. They are discovering a plan of action to keep us united, and they are discovering that the youth have a major role to play in Islam for the 21st century. A major role. Alhamdulillah, last Ramadan, I was privileged to write a book. For the last 13 Ramadans, I have written a book, because I found myself in the past watching the clock to see when the sun was going to set. And I said, this is really not what Allah had in mind when He gave us the marvelous experience of Ramadan. Somehow I started writing, and each Ramadan, the day Ramadan started, I would pray and ask Allah to help me write the book by the 30th month, the 30th day of the month. When I first started, I was very nervous. And every first day, I'm also nervous. I say, I wonder if I will be obedient to the voice of Allah. I spend the year preparing, researching and gathering things and putting them in shopping bags. And then the first day of Ramadan, I usually get a phone call from Saudi Arabia about 4 or 5 in the morning telling me Ramadan is now, and I start writing and writing. Last year, I wrote from the topic, Welcome to Islam for the 21st Century. Each year I try to write about a different subject because I don't want to keep writing the same book over and over. You don't learn. It's easy to do that. Sometimes I'm tempted to do it, but I want to keep learning. I want to keep interacting with Allah so I can seek knowledge throughout the world. So I've written about religion. I've written about comparative religion. I've written about computers. I've written about logic. I've written about nutrition. I've written about biology. I've written about the media, records, newspapers, television, movies, a host of books. Each time I learned more and more. So now I don't even see the clock. I'm involved with knowledge. Based upon everything that I have seen and heard, and all of the travels that I have around the world, I just want to assure you and to reassure you that we are now in the building phase. No more colonialism. We are now regrouping. It's a reconstruction. It's a family reunion all over the world. And the young people have an indispensable role in the process. So young people, I'm asking you to trust me just for another half hour, because I want to try to outline some of the aspects of the role that you must play or you can play in the great family reunion of 1,200,000,000 Muslims. I am going to talk about what your role can be intellectually. What we are going to count on the young people to do for us and to do for the family of Islam intellectually. Secondly, I would like to talk about what you will do for us spiritually. thirdly, I would like to suggest what you can do for us socially. Next, economically, politically, and last, aesthetically. So as you can see, there are many dimensions to my address. I told you what I intended to say at the beginning so that you would know that I prepared. Otherwise, you would wonder, did he really stay up to 5 in the morning? Now, I may not deliver my lecture as I should. It may not come out as I would like, but I want you to know, through the grace of Allah, I have prepared because the youth are that important to me. It would be an insult to you if I came here this evening unprepared, just talking from the top of my head. You deserve better. And therefore I prepared. The question is now, can I recall those things that I have read, and will Allah help me deliver what I feel is in the interest of our family? 1,200,000,000. The United Nations was quite curious about the size of our family and what it would look like in the future. They did a demographic computer simulation, and they determined what the world would look like in just 65 years. And they were interested about the Muslim population. My friends, it is with great pride that I tell you the results of the United Nations study, that in 65 years, assuming that there are no more converts to Islam from now to the next 65 years, according to the United Nations, at the end of that period, 1 out of every 2 persons born in the world would have been born a Muslim. Just to give you some idea, the population of Africa just in 30 years south of the Sahara is projected to be 1,600,000,000 people. Nigeria is projected to be the 3rd most populous country in the world. Africa is as large as India, China, Western Europe, and the United States put together. They fit inside of Africa. An amazing world. In our young people, we are dependent upon you to make sure that 1 out of every 2 persons who are born Muslims become good Muslims. That's the challenge. Good Muslims. Dedicated Muslims. Muslims who will bring hope to the world. Muslims who will bring knowledge to the world. Muslims who will bring progress to the world. Muslims who will not engage in wasting of assets, in polluting of environment and water and lungs. Muslims who are committed to respect the creation of Allah. That's the Muslim population that we must build. We are not there tonight. We have a long way to go. Many sacrifices to make. But we want to see the vision for the young people. You have a role. Meet us in the Islamic Free Zone each week to make sure we are making the proper progress. There's no amount of disco that can produce for you the joy that is in Islam. It just doesn't exist. There's no amount of alcohol or drugs that can compete with the joy of Allah. That doesn't exist. So it's simply opening up your mind and heart to recognize what we must all do. Young, old, male, female, every race on earth. It is now time that we look at each other and look at our goal and our target, and you do not let anything distract you. We don't have the time. We must press forward with the perfect religion. This is the time to move. How then should we move intellectually? We must go back to the basics. The first message, as the young brothers told us when they recited the questions and answers, was Iqra, read. We have stopped reading. We like television. It's faster, it's easier. In fact, it's more hypnotic, and it does not provide the same experience as reading. When you read, you are forced to interact with events. Your mind keeps questioning, who is this? Why? Where? How? Your mind is interacting. Television gives you a complete image, and there's nothing else to do except the next image comes. And they come instantaneously, so you're hypnotized. You can walk through a room, and before you get from one side to the other side with the television on, you've become hypnotized, taking in impressions. The Quran says we must search for knowledge, search the universe. Young people, television is not going to destroy you, but an unhealthy amount of television will destroy you. You must be moderate and balanced. Ask yourself, how much brain food are you getting from the television? So you might have to limit yourself to 1.5 hours a day. In America, some of the Muslims are watching television 8 and 10 hours a day. Some families are watching 80 hours a week. That's like 2 full-time jobs. Hypnotized. In that frame of mind, they are not hearing the voice of Allah. They are hearing about crime and violence and soapbox operas and love, so that their mind becomes polluted and their emotions become polluted, and they don't have time to go to the mosque. They don't have time for dawah because they say, I have something more important. When you ask them what, they say, well, it's educational television. This is neocolonialism. It's bringing us back into slavery. And this slavery is worse than the first slavery. Because the first slavery, we knew who the enemy was. We knew how to mobilize to be free. But from the television, we don't recognize the enemy aspect, so we don't mobilize. We don't know we're being destroyed. Young people, we need you to help some of us adults. We need you to ask your mother and father if it's all right if you turn the television off. Tell them you'd like some real food, some real brain food. Don't be rude. Ask them in a nice way. If they become unappreciative, ask them to come to the Islamic free zone so it can be discussed without fear of reprisal. Our young people should be studying physics, chemistry, management, accounting, business. If there's 1,200,000,000 of us, we must look at the needs of the global family of Islam. Certainly we want to learn Arabic. It gives us just another family cement to keep us together. We have something in common. if there are 800 different languages in Africa, if there are over 1,000 different languages in Mexico, and if there are thousands of languages all over the world, we can have difficulty communicating. I don't want anyone to give up their language, but let's all take one that we can all share in common, so when we meet each other, we have the cement to keep the family together. So let's learn Arabic. When I learned that this particular mosque has classes in Arabic, I was thrilled. We want our young people to take advantage of that. So whether we meet in the airport or on the street, say assalamu alaikum, seek bakhair, just nod. Gives you the feeling that we're together. From Africa, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Pakistan. One people united. Rise and unite. Young people, when you go to school, there will be a tendency from time to time to be distracted. Sometimes your friends want to play a little bit. Sometimes they're so frustrated they want to discuss the latest record, the latest musical recording. You have to be strong enough to appreciate that nothing can come in between your grasp of knowledge. It is knowledge that gave the Muslim kingdoms of the past such great achievement. Knowledge. The world came to us. Every corner of the world came to the Muslim society trying to benefit from our knowledge. We have stopped during colonialism acquiring knowledge. Now we must go back. Young people, we need you. Because some of us don't know how to run a business. Some of us don't know how to be friendly. We don't know how to give good customer service. So you get the books on management and retail and come to the Islamic free zone. Help us, adults. Some of us have gotten set in our ways. We don't want to hear anything. So be patient with us. Don't get mad if we don't adopt everything you say. We're learning. You're learning. We want to exchange little by little. We're telling you we're willing to try. Give us a chance. We'll give you a chance at the Islamic free zone. Now, when you get back home, you may have to obey whether you want to or not. But in the Islamic free zone, we can do whatever we want as long as it's consistent with reason, logic, and the Quran. Now, young people, we not only want you to study, but also we want you to be at the top of your class. Because your friends have a lot of distractions. They're not going to concentrate like you, but you know why you are studying. You know that you're studying to contribute to 1,200,000,000, so you have more motivation. So when you go to the college, I should be able to go to any of the colleges and high schools. And the students will tell me, when I ask them, who are the Muslims? And they'll tell me, I'll show you who the Muslims are. They're the ones with the highest grades in the school. They're the ones with the best conduct. Why? Because they're the most motivated. Knowledge. Knowledge. Read. We should have a period of the day in our home where the families come together, father and mother and children, and read together, exchange ideas together, so we can be equipped to make a contribution together. Reading is crucial. Spiritually, we want to observe the tenets of Islam. You will be happier. Your friends tell you, unless you go to the disco, you won't be happy. I have been completely happy since 1955. Alhamdulillah, if there's any more happiness than I have had from 1955 until today, I don't want it. I said, just give it to someone else because I don't have any place to put it. Internally, I have been completely happy. And just last Wednesday was my birthday. That made me 56. Don't drink alcohol. I'm not even tempted. Do not want any drugs. That's not a temptation. Don't even think about being unfaithful to my wife. So I can't go to her and say, look how much I'm sacrificing for you. It doesn't cross my mind, so it's not a sacrifice. To love my children is not a sacrifice. To stay away from cigarettes, that's not a sacrifice. My lungs are capable of sustaining great volume because I haven't polluted my lungs. Do you realize that your lungs, if you were to stretch them out over a tennis court, would fill the whole tennis court? The tissue of your lungs could fill the whole tennis court. Every time you smoke, the nicotine lodges itself into those crevices, and oxygen does not get through the system. You suffer as a result. You are destroying a gift from Allah, and you should not do that. You have to persuade your friends, not they persuade you. You let them know what real happiness is. They're going to tell you when you go to the disco, this all you see so many people and the music and you have so much fun. You tell them that sounds interesting, but let me tell you what is real fun. Having security inside. Having a peace of mind. Having respect for your achievement. Knowing that if you were to meet your Creator, He would say, well done. That is joy unspeakable and full of glory. And when our young people see that joy in our lives, they will want to imitate it. But if they do not see, if the young people cannot see the peace in us, they don't believe it's possible. They doubt. And many of us have failed to exhibit the peace of Allah. We say every day, Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto thee. But we don't have the peace inside of us. So the children feel that we are hypocrites. The children see that little sneaky move down to the basement and taking a little of the alcohol. They see it. They can smell it on the breath. They may not say anything, but they know something must be wrong. If we want the respect of our youth, we must earn it. And if you serve Allah, you will earn it. You need not do any more than follow the guide that is in the Quran. It is there for us. It is perfect. You don't have to worry whether it's right. Will it make me what I should be? The perfect religion is outlined for you in the Quran. Young people, don't forget the prayer. Don't forget Ramadan. It makes you strong. It gives you the fortitude to resist the peer pressure from your friends. When you learn how to deny food, even though you feel hungry, you say, no, I promised Allah. That gives your mind willpower. You're building your strength internally. So when other temptations come, that same strength guides you. You don't have to become angry with your friends. You just kind of look at them and smile because you know what in you is peace. Perfect peace, happiness, and joy. Spiritually, young people, combine knowledge, education with your spiritual life every day. Economically, we need the young people to help us become economically sound. Do you realize that the Muslim world is the poorest in the world? Do you think that that is what Allah wants? The poorest, the least educated Muslims all over the world. We have the least economic assets all over the world. Now, I understand that colonialism did not permit us to amass wealth. Colonialism hampered our desire to further the traditions that are embodied in the Quran. The Quran tells us that trade is legitimate for Muslims. We used to be the greatest traders in all the world, marketers. We knew how to put up warehouses in Malaysia. Over 1,000 years ago, one of the most elaborate warehousing structures were put up by the Muslims. Do you know they had warehouses under the water because of the fluctuation of the temperatures in the humidity? In order that the product would not spoil, they built a warehouse under the water. The Muslims, one of the first things that the British did was destroy that warehouse network because they didn't want Muslims together. One of the first things that the Portuguese did was to make sure that they could go all the way around South Africa to get to India, because they didn't want to use that route through the Middle East, because that gave Muslims too much economic power. The colonial experience taught you there's no sense developing business skills because you couldn't do anything with the skills. Unless the European powers permitted you to sell to them, you would starve. They controlled us and destroyed our confidence so that we didn't believe what we could do. Now the young people must go back into our history. From China to Malaysia to Indonesia to Pakistan to India to Africa. And they must reacquaint us with what we are capable of doing in business. Then they have to bring us up to date. We can't use the old techniques that we used 500 years ago. There are new management skills. We have to know how to operate the computer. We have to know how to forecast. We have to know how to predict trends economically. Young people, we need you to study economics and management. We need you to study business administration. We need you to study zoology so that we again can rise. We must rise. But we must rise on knowledge. Thirdly, we must ask the young people to help us understand nutrition. We must get away from the baby. Colonialism taught us that somehow someone would come out of the sky and give us something and we wouldn't have to do it for ourselves. That is not going to happen. It amazes me sometime when I'm coming for a gift. Now, when Saudi Arabia did not have knowledge of their oil, none of us said the poor Saudis living in the desert, let's think about them and give them something. No. We said that the Saudis, just forget them. Now that the oil's there, not one or two, everyone. Every time we get an idea, let's go to the Saudi. Why not go to the Quran? The Prophet ﷺ did not go to Egypt to build a mosque. He didn't go to Damascus to build a mosque. He, at the age of 53, was carrying bricks to build a mosque. He set the pattern. One gentleman used to come and stay in the mosque for hours and hours and hours every day. And he one day got enough courage to approach the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, I just need a little assistance because I spend all of my time praying. I can't do anything else. So the question was asked of him, what do you have in your house? He said, well, as a poor family, we don't have very much. Just a little clothes, a little few objects. He said, bring some of them here. And they held an auction. And he sold them. He gave them the money. He said, you take this money, take care of your family. Now, I'm also going to give you an axe. Take this axe, chop down trees, sell the wood, take care of your family. The man became a very successful merchant and a businessman. And he met the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the mosque on another occasion. And he told the Prophet, you were right. I now am respected by my family. I still pray. I have income. I have security, alhamdulillah. This is part of our perfect religion. Business. But you cannot be successful in business for long if your health is destroyed. We know very little about nutrition. We used to know a great deal. We used to know what herbs to take for almost anything. Now we don't know what to do. Our health is deteriorating. We're eating grease, junk, one hamburger, 16 teaspoons of fat. Just one. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and getting a whole lot of fat and just taking 16 teaspoons? One Coca-Cola, 12 ounce, has 10 teaspoons of sugar. Now we need our young people to teach us about the dangers of poor eating, because it will clog the arteries. It will cause heart attack. It will cause high blood pressure. It will cause strokes. This poor eating is against the prescriptions of Allah. Every time you eat, your organs begin to mesh up the food, grinding it like a washing machine, trying to break it down and decompose it. Some foods make it very, very, very difficult. When you take that bread, just try it, put some water on it and mix it up. It becomes like dough. When you eat it, the body keeps grinding, trying to break it up. It's like chewing gum. It just refuses to create the friction. So it stays in your body, and your body continues to work and overwork without being paid overtime. Knowing how to eat. Our children are growing up now. We're feeding them junk because we're tired and we're lazy. We're saying, well, it's just easier. Give them this and let them go. We are disrespecting the creation of Allah, life. We have an obligation. We need the young people to start studying nutrition. Some of the medical schools don't teach nutrition. They just teach trial and error, how to cut. That's all they want to do. When can I cut and make some money? You want to prevent the cut. You want to prevent your health from deteriorating. You don't want to wait till you're sick. You want your immune system to be fresh. That's one of the purposes of Ramadan, to let your organs rest. While you're meditating and praying, you are rehabilitating your organs so they become more efficient. But when we stuff ourselves to death, the last meal before Ramadan starts, we defeat the purpose. then go to sleep on all that food, just working havoc on our organs. Young people, study nutrition to help us recognize that we are what we eat. To have half of the world Muslim and we're all dying like flies is not going to further the cause of Islam. We should have the best health. On one occasion, a Persian doctor became a member of the Muslim community, and he was anxious to be of help. After 2 years, he went to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I've been with you 2 years. I can't find a patient. There's no one sick. What's wrong? 1,400 years ago, they had greater insight into nutrition than we have today. The Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told him the answer is we eat only when we are hungry. We don't make a habit of eating, and we never overeat. Dates, wild honey, getting the proper balance of vitamins and minerals. That's what the Muslims are supposed to do. Young people, we need your help to return us to the mark that we started from. Come to the Islamic Free Zone and bring your books to help us save our lives. In a more specific manner, a young brother, a Muslim in the United States who went to college with me, he called me on the telephone about 6 months ago, and he told me that he had a nutritional breakthrough. I asked him to send it to me. He sent it to me, and I took, as he directed, 1 tablespoon. First I put a glass of juice. I put 1 tablespoon in, stirred it up, didn't work. He said, that's not the way. Take a container, put the juice, put the powder, turn the lid, shake it up 5 or 10 seconds, then drink it. Smell good, look good. It didn't have any cholesterol. It had less than 1 gram of fat. Less than 1 gram of fat. Complete protein, complex carbohydrate, all in one. And sodium that will kill you, 0. I started feeling the energy because this nutrition, over 100 nutrients, went right in the body. My organs were happy. They didn't have to do any work. MashaAllah, I said, this is what I've been looking for 20 years. Something to give to the world, to unite us, to improve our health, and let commercialization take this and show the world that we are back. I used to weigh, before I started, 148. I got on the scale today just to check before I came to see you. I weigh today 127. I didn't diet one day. I didn't feel hungry. I wasn't starving. It was the product Come Alive that had the nutrition, only 27 calories. So the nutrition in my body said, don't eat as much. You don't need it. And I learned in the hadith that you shouldn't eat when you're not hungry. So I ate less and less. And I started thinking to myself, Allahu Akbar, come alive. And then we found another herb that the American Indians used for 1,000 years. And when the other Indians got the diseases, when they met the Europeans, this particular Indian group along the Atlantic coast didn't happen to them. Tuberculosis, heart trouble, didn't happen. The French concluded that it was due to this particular herb. So we got that herb. That's called stay alive. So come alive and stay alive. Now, if you want to see something dramatic, you let some people with some pain, I mean real pain, back trouble, knee trouble, got pains and aches, take come alive and stay alive for 2-3 days and ask them how they feel. It builds the immune system naturally. It's not toxic. It's not a chemical. It's a food. But it builds the immune system. So I took Come Alive and Stay Alive and put it in aloe vera gel, pure aloe vera gel, to make look alive. So when you shave, every time you shave, you take a layer of skin off your face. Look Alive heals the skin. It conditions the skin. Look Alive puts 100 nutrients in the skin. Look alive. Come alive, stay alive, and look alive. During the question and answers, if you request, I'll show you what they look like. But my point is, young people, we need you. Here's a product that we should be taking to Russia, to the Muslims in Russia. If you send junk food, many of them are not getting the proper nourishment. Why don't we take the wholesome food that we know will save their life? Bangladesh, Africa, the Muslims now coming back to life, bringing life in the form of nutrition to the world. You will be respected. We need the young people to continue the research so we can have more product, more Come Alive. Save the family nutrition. Politically, I have just 5 minutes. Politically, may I suggest to you in the West, don't make politics your priority. Every individual who is a UK citizen has the right to vote. Exercise your right as a citizen. But do not spend 90% of your time trying to take over the British Parliament, because you will never outvote the dominant group in England. 5% of the population can't outvote 95%. It's just simple mathematics. I repeat, exercise your right to vote, but don't spend all your time and money in voting, because the returns that you will get will be small in comparison from the returns that you will get from education and economic development and nutrition. These things will give direct, immediate impact and improve the community. Politics, most of these politicians are liars, corrupt, and they're not interested in you. They will give you a nice speech if that's what you want. But you can buy that and play that on your vacation. The political process as a minority in a country, until you develop your economic strength. If you have enough economic strength, then you can begin to engage strategically in the political process. But being poor will just be used. Some of our own people will get corrupted, running after dreams. Because someone said, I'm going to make you a knight. We give up Islam for that. To be a knight? Young people, some of us have egos. And some of us can't control them. To get our picture in the paper or to be called a leader, we just can't turn it down. Adam didn't turn it down. He tried. He had more intelligence than we did because he reasoned only deductively. He couldn't turn it down. We need you to help us maintain a balance. Don't let us get such an ego problem that we want to have a group every 10 minutes to develop dawah. We don't like this group over there. We're going to do it correctly. All of the schisms among us Muslims, It's embarrassing. Allah will judge those who create schisms among the family of Islam. But we need the young people to help, because you see it all. I know, because you talk about it out in the room out there. You start saying, I wonder if they're going to have a fight tonight. Are they going to have an argument tonight? Let's wait for the question and answer period. That's when it gets fun. We're not going to fight tonight, because logic and reason and prayer and the Quran guides us. So we don't have fights. That should be our approach to life, so that the young people know where we are going. Entertainment, young people, don't go overboard. Maintain a balance. Maintain a balance. I was asked to speak for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Although it may appear longer, I have now spoken for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Alhamdulillah. Therefore, I'm going to stop my main address, and I will respond to whatever questions you have. I plead with you, do not let me leave here without you having asked your question. Some people have questions to ask, and they say, well, I don't want to embarrass the speaker. He's a guest who's come thousands of miles, so I should be very careful what I ask. I am simply a brother Muslim. There's no big titles and there's no big names. I'm just a brother. Ask whatever you like. I will try my best to answer your question to the best of my ability. I want to thank all of you very much for coming. You've been very kind. I'm going to speak again tomorrow from a different topic. I'm not going to repeat what I said tonight. There will be a different topic tomorrow, and throughout the entire lecture series, they have the programs outside to tell you where we will be. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your kind attention, and I will tell everyone where I go, how nice you have been to me and how spoiled I have become. Thank you very much, and may Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid Al-Mansoor, a most enthralling lecture. The one thing that we can promise Dr. Al-Mansoor is that after listening to his lecture, between us, the Muslims of Harrow, we will try and start up an Islamic free zone, inshallah. And next time he comes, we can report back to him and tell him, look what we've done, because results and actions speak louder than words. I would now like to open the floor to questions. Any questions you have, please come to the microphone at the front and put your question. Because of the limitation of time, please make sure that you put a question and not make a statement. And also, in the interests of time, once again, please ask one question at one time. Let the speaker respond, and then let's go on to the next question. If the ladies have any questions, there's also a microphone in their room, and they're welcome to put the questions from there. First questioner, please. Yeah. Anybody who has questions, please come to the front and make a queue. As Dr. Khalid said, don't feel embarrassed, ask him anything you want. We would request all the questioners to come and make a queue so we know how much time we can allocate to each question.
Alaikum salam.
Right, in this country, the major political parties in this country, they support things like homosexuality, lesbianism, alcoholism, promiscuity. Now, is supporting them rejecting Allah?
Well, I think that you are voting for candidates. You are voting for individuals who are on a ballot, and it is up to you to decide whether any of those individuals that you are voting for represent those principles that you believe in. If there are individuals who do not represent those principles, but rather the characteristics that you have outlined, obviously you would not vote for them. My point is that whoever you vote for, without having developed an economic base, we're not going to go anywhere. We have to have an economic base to have the power to be able to go. So we're saying for the merchants here, those who are involved in wholesaling, get in touch with the World Islamic Propagation Establishment and find out how you can bring in the Come Alive to build up a base, to provide employment, to provide people's nutrition. This is far superior to voting. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Well, lots of young people are into music, and there are also groups like Public Enemy who promote Islam through their music. Do you approve of this?
That's a very good question. I feel that entertainment is permissible. I think it's acceptable. The question is what form that entertainment will take. And when Islam started spreading in America, those who converted to Islam were told they should eliminate music. Don't listen to any music at all. That's when Islam started coming in the 30s and 40s. But I went to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Egypt. Everyone that has music there. They have music in Pakistan. They have music in India. So why should I give up part of my culture and heritage? And I find that everyone else who's Muslims, they have theirs. The question to me is not music. It is what the content is. Public Enemy, you probably heard the interview on the television where the question was asked whether or not the leader of Public Enemy was a Muslim or not. And he said, yes, I am a Muslim 100%. I think it's the same as Muhammad Ali. I heard back in the 70s, I think I was one of the first persons that Muhammad Ali told that he had converted to Islam in Oakland, California. This is before he announced it publicly. But the Muslims, some Muslims were saying, this is such a shame. If a man is going to be a Muslim, he shouldn't be boxing. But then I see people playing soccer all over the Middle East and all over Africa, and they're Muslims, and why jump on this poor man who provided a platform to revive the spirits of many of us Muslims? So what I want to do is I don't want to get excited. I want to first take the Quran and find out what the Quran says. Not custom, not tradition. I want to know what the Quran says. Then I can be able to make a judgment. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, which might undermine everything I've said to date, is that, inshallah, in the next year, I intend to produce a movie, a full-length feature movie. I've already written the storyline, and we had a brother who has reduced it to a movie. And the movie has no profanity in it at all. There's no explicit sex scenes in the movie whatsoever. The movie, every person who participates in the movie, while we are producing the movie, there will be on the set no alcohol, there will be no cigarettes, there will be no profanity even while we are making the movie. Only come alive, stay alive, and look alive. The movie is the story of an African American who goes in the military and is sent to Saudi Arabia, and while in Saudi Arabia he converts to Islam, and then he comes back to America and we track his life. When he wants to get married, what happens? When the people in the neighborhood say these Muslims are crazy, what is the response? What does his fiancée say? How does he make a living? What does he do in school? When he wants to adopt a little boy, what does he name him? How does that young man do in school? What is the role of a Muslim in a society that is not an Islamic society? These are the themes that we approach, and we include rap music. It is a contest ultimately between the Muslim with Islamic messages in his song and a non-Muslim who is just talking about sex and love and egoism. That movie is called Rise and Unite. And Chuck D, Muhammad Ali, Winnie Mandela are just some of the people who will be in the movie. Now, I anticipate some people will condemn the movie. They will say, no, you shouldn't make a movie. But this is my question. If you're going to watch a movie on TV that is made by a kafir who has no belief in Allah at all and puts anything and everything on that movie, and we don't condemn it, why would you condemn a movie about a Muslim who is projecting the faith, regardless to the condemnation? I don't want you to answer that question. We are going to make the movie. Rise and unite. Walaikum salam.
All over England, the education system, after school the kids get together and they learn Quran and then go home. Now there's no proper education system, and I feel that there should be a syllabus taught all over England, exactly the same system. But the knowledge, what do you think that, what type of book should be taught, and what's the proper syllabus that, how can we spread this all over England that the same education is taught? Because everybody is learning different things in different mosques and madrasas, and nothing's being taught the same. So I'd like to ask.
Very good question. I hope that you will bring this question up again at the Islamic Free Zone here at the mosque, because it is an important question. My short answer is, last year I wrote, during Ramadan, a book, 12 hours a day I wrote the book, and it turned out to be about 900 and some pages. Alhamdulillah, it was an enriching experience. The book is Welcome to Islam for the 21st Century. One of the chapters sets forth an educational syllabus for all the Muslims, not just in England, but all over the world, because the same problem exists. In China, we don't study the same thing that we are in England. In Russia, we're not studying the same thing we are in the United States. In Africa, we're not studying the same thing that we are in the Middle East. So I set forth a basic curriculum. Then you can add on whatever you want, but these basic curriculum hopefully would be adopted by the Muslims all over the world, so when we travel, wherever we go, we all have a common educational framework. And that curriculum is based upon the teachings embodied in the Quran. So hopefully next month, we will be able to send you the book, and that may not be the answer. You may not like that curriculum. There may be a better one. It's all right. But this is an effort to bring about a uniform curriculum for all the Muslims in the world, wherever they be found.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Almost all over the world, Muslims are the victims of natural calamities like cyclones, flood, etc. And you also mentioned they are the most refugees. Why God is unkind to all of us?
Well, I think.
And what you think about it?
All right. The question is, what is unkindness, and what is an opportunity? I think that in researching the life of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who we know was a man committed to the faith and who submitted to Allah. Sometimes we read his life quickly and we overlook the tragedy. When he fled from Mecca to Medina, it was not a delightful trip. When he got to Medina, there was a plague in Medina, a disease killing the people, including the Muslims. And the Muslim groups did not have a lot of money. They did not even have a school. They purchased land. The first thing was some of the relatives of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, offered some land. The Ansar said, here's some land. We know you're sacrificing. We want to help you. He said no. He said, Abu Bakr, you have the treasure. Pay for the land. Even though they're my relatives, pay for the land. They built a mosque, and then next to the mosque, a madrasa. The people didn't have homes to live in, so they slept in the mosque even though there were diseases. At the same time, the enemies were planning to attack them. This is worse than a cyclone. People were beginning to doubt themselves. They were beginning to ask questions. Should we have come here to Yathrib? Did we make a mistake? Did someone get the wrong message? We were better off in Mecca. But the vision kept the people long enough to recognize this was an opportunity. An opportunity to submit, an opportunity to grow. Let me use another example outside of the religious context. In 1945, the United States of America dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese. 300 people were killed. There is a body of information that indicates that Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt had agreed to drop the atomic bomb on the Japanese even before Pearl Harbor. The belief was that the Japanese would be finished for life. Much like Iraq. The Japanese said, this is an opportunity. This is not a disaster. When the Japanese started, the automobile industry was in the United States. The steel industry was in England. The shipping industry was in England and in Holland. The watch industry was in Germany. The candy industry, watch industry, Switzerland. Where are they today? Now you must appreciate that the Japanese have 100 million people plus. Much of the land cannot be lived upon. If you were to take the entire population of Japan and stuff it into the state of Montana in the United States, half of the state, that is what Japan is like. More importantly, there are no natural resources. It's like living in the desert. So they have to go outside of their country and buy natural resources, transport them back to Japan, convert them into finished goods, send them back out to the world again, and have a cheaper product than those countries that have natural resources right in their country. No oil, no energy. But the Japanese said, this is an opportunity. Now, the Japanese, who are intelligent planners, said that with all of their success, they are embarrassing the United States, who dropped that atomic bomb. Because they are efficient, they are dedicated, they are disciplined. The Japanese say we may lose these traits, and if we do, we will be walked upon. And therefore they sent a delegation headed up by Yugo Itagaki to Saudi Arabia to study Islam. They returned to Japan and they said, Islam has profound solutions to the problems that will face the Japanese in the 21st century, problems of discipline. Can they maintain that discipline? The Japanese professor said, Islam is the answer. Now, if the Japanese recognize that Islam can carry them into the 21st century after receiving the atomic bomb, we have no excuse. No excuse. Everything out there is just an opportunity to grow in witness and to excel through the grace of Allah.
Thank you.
There's someone's car, Q369YRX is blocking the entrance. Could you please remove the car? Right, next question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I'm not very good at asking questions, so I'll try and do it the best way I can. The one thing that you seem to be talking about so far is to exhorting young people to seek knowledge. I'm a teacher, and I've taught in England and abroad as well. In every school I've been to, we are teaching the facts, but with a Western ideology. In this country, we have a law that states that Christian schools, Jewish schools, religious schools can seek funding through the government. At the moment, we have government schools for Christians and for Jews, but not for Muslims. They resist this. The one thing I want to challenge you on is that there is no gain to be found through political pressure. There are many pressure groups in this country that have achieved things. Why is it not possible for Muslims to pressurize the government to fulfill their own laws, to provide Muslim schools with Muslim ethos, to teach a Muslim curriculum using Western facts but in a Muslim environment? Because to me that is the only way forward for Muslims.
Two things. First of all, the curriculum. Most of the curriculum is not subject to ideology. For instance, there's no Christian mathematics. There's no Jewish mathematics. There's no Jewish accounting. There's no Christian accounting. There's no Jewish geography, no Christian geography. There may from time to time be various emphasis placed, but basically where you have the ideological factors come in is when you get into courses like history, you get into courses like literature. And these courses you can emphasize one approach or another, and I feel that it should be done. I feel that the madrasas are doing it, but it should be done also for Muslim private schools. The question is, what is the best way to organize schools for Muslims, public schools for Muslims? Put another way, how much time and energy and money will it take for us to get the government in the UK, as some people are doing? Some people are fighting very hard to get permission to get schools. How much time and energy will it take to get permission to get the school? And how much time and energy would it take for me to put up my own private school to accomplish the same goals? Put another way, before the UK had the Jewish schools, the Jews took the responsibility to put up their old schools while they were developing the economic strength to engage in the political process. The Japanese are going to put up a Japanese school while they are gaining the economic strength to engage in political battle. Politics right now, if you go to the government, they want to know how many people there are and how much money do they have. Are they going to be able to contribute to my campaign? These are the criterion that they employ to decide how quickly they're going to respond to your request. And when they do their calculus and they say most of the people are poor, so we're not going to get any contributions. So that's not the same for the Jews and the Christians. When they say furthermore, most of the people there are not going to be a factor in elections. There's not enough of them. Therefore, we'll listen to them, we'll be nice to them, we'll tell them, yes, we're working on it, and come back again and come back again. And the leadership becomes frustrated and drained and still no school. I'm not opposed to the political process. I said let people vote. I'm not opposed to engaging in negotiation. I'm saying as a planner, I want to know how much I have to put in and what I'm going to get back. And when I find that I'm putting in more than I'm getting back, and the children are still not getting the basics, then I'm making a mistake. So I will then use a secondary strategy. I will build the economic base of the Muslims. 2 or 3 Muslims in this country. If these Muslims had economic ties, trading with China, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all over, then the community opens jobs, the community develops strength. You don't have to wait for the politicians. They will come to you saying, what do you want? Can we help you? Because they know the amount of money in the bank. Sure.
How do you say that? Having just come back from Saudi Arabia and seen what goes on in Saudi Arabia as a teacher, to me, first, there is very much, I teach science, and there's very much an ethos against Islam through teaching science that I fight against in the school in which I teach. Secondly, the money...
Can you explain that? I'm not sure. How would someone use
the main
science to discourage a commitment to Islam?
Well, the simplest thing is the theory of evolution. The same facts about how man has evolved are taught with the sole aim of proving that there is no God. That in all schools in Saudi Arabia and in this country that I've seen.
Yeah,
So I taught in Saudi.
I don't know what schools that you have taught at or attended in Saudi Arabia, but I've been going to Saudi Arabia since 1966. And I'm pretty familiar with the textbooks.
Yeah, the two
science.
schools I'm familiar with are Manarat Al Riyadh and Al Riyadh School, the two major private schools in Riyadh itself.
Yeah, I think we should look at those textbooks, because I think that there's a difference in stating that there is a theory of evolution and how that theory is interpreted to reach the result of atheism. I don't know of any textbook in Saudi Arabia that condones, advances, or has within its pages the legitimacy of atheism.
It's the teachers. A lot of the teachers are English teachers, so it comes over in the way in which they do things.
All right, but I'm saying again, if a teacher is teaching to emphasize atheism, let's just assume that. First of all, we certainly would want to report them to the officials in Saudi Arabia, because I'm sure they're not aware of it. But secondly, I don't think that we should ever conclude that we are so fragile that if a teacher tells us there is no God, we declare ourselves atheists. Our children are going to be at home. We were taught for hundreds of years that we were inferior. We don't believe that. They tried everything they could to convince us that we could never make a contribution in life. We rejected that. How did we reject it? The same way the Japanese rejected it when the Americans taught them that they were inferior. After the war, during the occupation of Japan, the Americans took over the school. The first thing they outlawed was teaching Japanese history, because they said if you let the Japanese know their history, they will not become subservient and slaves. So what did the parents do? The parents taught their children the history at home. They taught the children at home. I'm simply saying, just assuming that there's some people teaching atheism in school, that would never bother me. Because as soon as my daughter or my son comes home and we have the Islamic free zone, we're going to talk. And I'm going to say to my son and daughter, what did you learn in school today? And they're going to say to me, we were told that there is no God. They don't use the blunt language. They use a lot of metaphysical and vague jargon, but let's just assume they made it blunt. I would tell them, this is very interesting. Now let me first go back to your name. Your name is Aisha, that's my daughter, one of my daughters. She says yes. I said Aisha means the life of Allah. Allah is the creator. So every time the person says there is no God, Aisha, you can say to yourself, I represent the life of Allah. This is what I do in the home to protect my children, not only from an atheistic teacher or a homosexual teacher that I may not even know is a homosexual. I'm preparing my children for life. I'm preparing them against gambling, alcohol, nicotine, and there's no teacher in this world who's going to be a better teacher than I am. So I'm going to protect my children. While I'm protecting my children, I will still watch out for the educational process. If you were to ask the people in Saudi Arabia today, how many people are atheists? There's no one in Saudi Arabia. Everyone was Allahu Akbar. So I don't care what some teacher from England is teaching. It's not penetrating the people. Nevertheless, as a matter of pride, I would like to stop that. But I don't want to spend all of my energy stopping it and let my child be a victim of a homosexual abuse. I want to train my child in the home to be a Muslim, to understand Islam, to be solidified with Islam, and to be surrounded with the Islamic message. So whether she goes to a school or a synagogue, or someone talks to her on a bus, or someone talks to her in a trolley, or she reads a book, she's going to read books by outright atheists. And they're not going to be very subtle. Some of them will be called existentialists, some of them will be called non-existentialists. But my obligation is to protect her through knowledge. And I will not depend upon the educational process for that purpose.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I just want to say something. I was trying to practice dawah with one of my work colleagues, and the answer he gave me said, we are the most violent, the most aggressive people in the world, and he's not interested in Islam. Can you explain to me how I can tackle such people?
All right, first thing is you have to be honest. What we do sometimes when people describe us, we don't like it. It doesn't feel good. In America, where I was born, I'm an African American, people sometimes say, well, the blacks commit so many crimes, and the blacks have so many people in the penitentiary, and the blacks are not taking care of their family, black men are having children, and then running away from the children. The first thing is, too often that is true. So I just have to admit it. If I just deny it, the person doesn't want to listen to me at all. They just think I'm a liar. We are too divided as Muslims. Let me give you another example. I was in Pakistan at a conference, and I, in my introductory remarks, told the audience, but I was speaking to a particular person who was Chinese, but I had to talk to the whole audience to get to this person who was in the audience. And I told him, or the audience, that what I really wanted was to be content. And the last African American that spoke at a international conference of this nature was Adam Clayton Powell, when he was invited to the Bandung conference. And I told him that the stature of that man intellectually made me feel uncomfortable because he was much more intelligent than I. I said, but since I'm here, I will do my best. But the next thing is, I want to see the third world united. And I don't know how to do it. But when I learned that there were over 1 billion Muslims in the world and over 1 billion Chinese in the world, I thought that if the Muslims could become Chinese, or if the Chinese could become Muslims, we would have half the job done. And since I can't become Chinese, I want to know, is there any chance that I could persuade the Chinese to become Muslim? I'm watching this Chinese brother while I'm talking. He is not a Muslim. And that evening, he invited me to his hotel room, and he said to me, can I speak to you frankly, or do I have to be a diplomat? He was the 5th ranking member of the Communist Party in all of China. Very, very intelligent, erudite man. I told him, please, just be frank and honest. He says, all right, I want to talk as a planner, not as a religious enthusiast, as a planner. He said, why should I try to get the Chinese to become Muslims? He said, do you realize how long it would take us to convert 1 billion Chinese to Islam? Maybe a year. Maybe. He said, because we're organized. We would first start out taking the teachings of Confucius and showing the similarities between Confucius and Islam. And we would spread it throughout the entire system. And people would convert. He said, but the question is, why should I? Look at what is happening in Lebanon. Look at what is happening between the Syrians and the Jordanians and the Saudis and the Iraqis and the Iranians and the Iraqis. Why should we bring 1 billion people into this mess? That's what he asked me. And I almost fainted. Because I thought somehow in my mind that this was really an opportunity to convert this man. So I was scheming and planning and praying. But when he said that, it took all of my wind. My mind went blank. I couldn't think of anything to say because what he was saying was true. So then a flash occurred to me. I said, my friend, I didn't ask you to become a Palestinian. I didn't ask you to become a Lebanese. I didn't ask you to become a Saudi, an Iranian, or an Iraqi. What I asked you to do was to become a Muslim. And the Muslim world will follow the most righteous among us. So if you become the best Muslims, we will look to Mecca, but we will always be waving at China. if you are the best Muslims, if you have the best schools, and you have the best economic structures, and your families are the strongest, we will always look to you. What I do, my brother, is that I do not cover up most of our shortcomings. Some of them I do. Just don't talk about it. I don't lie. I just don't talk about it. But I talk about Islam, and I talk about the past, the future, and how if he comes with us, those things that he thinks are true, we can change them. If you think we are too violent, join hands with us and we'll bring peace. If you think that we don't have sufficient respect for our women, join our hands and we will bring about a revolution based on the Quran. We're not bringing up any more message. The last prophet has come, but join our hands and we will implement the message that has been given to us. And we will join hands with all of those Saudis who believe like us, and all the Kuwaitis who believe like us, all the Iraqis, all the Africans, 1,200,000,000. We will join hands and implement the Ummah. But if you're just looking for an excuse to reject Islam, this won't work. We are marching to implement the word of Allah. Oh, if the ladies have any question, you can make your questions known.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Many of our brothers, before becoming or before reverting into Islam, they had some very nice job that could give them plenty of money. Now that they become Muslim, they want to sort of like be with the Muslim, even though work with the Muslim. But we find out that some of the brothers that have the job do not want to give some of those brothers those jobs that they have. Now, what is your message to those brothers that looking for job or looking to work with the Muslim, and what is your message to those brothers that have the job and do not want to give it to those brothers?
Well, that's a good question. I think that there are two factors to consider. I don't know the details. I don't know which jobs we're talking about. But what I kind of love is self-help. I kind of love, in the United States today, in the African-American community, there's some friction. There's some people from Korea and even some Palestinians that have taken over little small shops in the black community, like South Africa, like Kenya, like Uganda. And the black Americans are protesting. They're saying that they're not treating us with respect. They are not giving us the proper price. And so what I asked them is, why don't you put up a business? This man is working 16, 18 hours a day. If he is not given the proper respect, and if you put up a business across the street, everyone will go to you because everyone wants respect. If his prices are too high, you put up a business and lower the price. What I'm simply saying is that we must not look for the distraction. What we want to know is, if this man can put up a business, why can't we? I'll tell you what happens. He respects you more, you respect him more. He then looks and says, look at these brothers with these businesses. We thought all they wanted to do was to ask us for jobs. But look at them now. They have made sacrifices. They have pulled their money together, and look at the business flourish. That, to me, is how Islam has to spread. Now, my last thing is that if you're looking for a job, we are looking for people to hire. Come alive. Come alive. We're looking for Africans, West Indians, Pakistanis, Indians. We're looking for Turks. We're looking for Europeans. We're looking for anyone in the world. We have a product that the world needs. We were offered by one of the countries in the Middle East to deliver tons of this product to specified countries like Bangladesh and Russia, where they need food. And I was happy. I mean, for someone to tell you, when you are involved in a business, I don't own this product. I don't own this product. It's just one of our companies agreed to try to advise them so they didn't make any mistakes to the best of our ability. When I saw this message, because it was delivered to me, that we're going to give tons I just said, look at all the jobs now. Allahu Akbar, this is fantastic. Then when I went and thought about it, I had to tell this gentleman that we're not ready to accept that big order. I would have loved to have it, but we're not ready to accept it. Why? Because if we sent this food to Russia, we should have someone go with the food to show the people how to use the food, to learn a little bit of the language of the Muslims in the Central Asian republics. We should be able to teach them, and they should be able to teach us. We should be able to do some dawah and reinforce among them while we go, and we didn't have the manpower. We didn't have the manpower. So I said to send the food there without the total program, I thought it would be a mistake. Now some of my staff didn't agree with me because they said just take the money. I said this is a mission, it's not just money. We have the ability to deliver nutrition to the world. Nutrition where we know that children, let me just show you. You see this lovely, every letter on this poster, we did it. It came from our company. Every letter to show all over the world, come alive. The name has a message. It means revive your spirits physically, biologically, your health, your mental prowess, your spiritual prowess, come alive. Vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Over 100 nutrients, all whole food. This is no artificial food. Come alive. This is stay alive. This is not ours. This is the American Indian did this. But it is a miracle. It's a food. Colds, flus, arthritis, rheumatism, stay alive. So we say come alive, stay alive. Then in the middle of the day, instead of getting those nasty candy bars for the kids that rot their teeth, you get come alive energy bar. All natural. This is what we did. We didn't sit down and wait for someone to employ us. This is what we did to look alive. So as this goes all over the world, Muslims and even non-Muslims, the look alive right now in the United States, the non-Muslims are buying more than the Muslims because of the benefits that it has. This is for the baby. Happiness is a healthy baby. A baby can't take come alive when they're 12 months old or younger. So we devised a special formula for the baby so that you know that your children are safe and healthy. This is called Feel Alive. This is for the brothers and sisters doing a lot of work, jogging and doing athletic work. They're in the military or they need extra protein because they just had a medical heart operation or any kind of medical operation where they need protein. This is Feel Alive. This is ready. You don't have to put it in juice. You just shake it up, put the straw in, and feel alive. Naturally. I think you have seen most of the products. What we want to do is to take the Muslims here and an Islamic bank like the Baraka Bank or the Dalal Mall, let them finance the importation, and let us cover all of England with Come Alive. Cover all of England. Bring in big wholesalers and warehouses and trucks to Come Alive throughout England with all the product lines. As people take the product and they feel good, they want to know, why do I feel so good? Then it's time for dawah. You tell them, well, let me explain to you. So what I'm saying is, sign up if you want to be involved. And let us constructively move ahead without any thought of any race. All I want are Muslims and people that want to work. If they don't want to work, then we'll talk about that at the Islamic Free Zone. I want people who are committed to work, because I might ask you to work 12 and 14 and 16 hours a day. So don't tell me I'm trying to reintroduce slavery. That's what it's going to take for us to move this around the world. Sacrifice, dedication, wanted throughout all the universities, through all the schools. That means planning, computers. We have to master the computer, management, in order to bring England alive naturally. Thank you very much.
ये जिस साहब की गाड़ी है जी टोयोटा Q369 YRX, ये रास्ता ब्लॉक कर रही है, प्लीज इसे हटा दें. A Toyota car, registration number Q369 YRX is blocking the way. Could you please move it? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Brother Khalid, how can we build an Islamic economic system if we are poor and the present banking system is corrupt?
Oh, this is a very good question. I think, again, I have to go back to the Japanese and to the days of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they didn't have any money. So what did they do? They instituted zakat. This is what, just meager savings, to begin to establish a bond among the Muslims. The Japanese instituted a program after that dastardly atomic bomb dropped upon them. 300,000 people killed. Their economy was destroyed. They had nothing. The Japanese said that 20% of whatever you have, save it. If you're a farmer and you have rice, you take 20%, put it to the side. We're going to sell that 20% to earn money. That's how the Japanese built their country. Everything was destroyed. We have more money than we realize. If you go to the restaurants, you go to the hamburger stands, I see us there. We're spending money. We're simply saying take 20% and put it away and pool that together. We don't need 4 or 5 millionaires. We just need a lot of people with $10 or 10 pounds or 20 pounds, putting it in a pool and using it intelligently. If we take that money and waste it, we have deceived the people. We must take that money, build that money, watch it grow step by step, and we can do that. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Brother Khalid, you mentioned that we must study economics and business management and things like that, and you did emphasize on that sort of point. But what my question is, being a student of economics myself in my youth, the economics which we are taught in colleges and universities here are nothing in common with Islam and like monetary and fiscal policy and all these things. It contradicts heavily. So what is the point of studying economics and business management here, knowing that you have to refrain from what you learned?
Because if you don't know economics, you cannot compete in the world. If the rest of the world knows, let's just use the term Western economics.
Yep.
If they're planning and they are organizing on Western economics, a model, and we don't know that model, we can't predict their activity. So if I want to Come Alive, if I can't anticipate what the policies will be in the West, I cannot effectively help the Muslims living under that system. So I'm not suggesting that everything you read, you implement, but I'm saying that you need to know, so that we need to know what other people are doing, so that we can benefit from that knowledge in our planning. We need to know computers, we need to know economics, we need to know management, and then we can adapt the computer for our Islamic programs. We can adapt the economics to our Islamic program. We can adapt the management techniques to our Islamic program. If we don't know them, it's difficult to adapt. So I'm simply saying, learn everything we can, and we will adapt it where necessary in order to promote our people.
But what will be the problem in future if you learn something and if you believe in that, you cannot come out of that?
Oh, I think this is a very minor. If I learn 2 and 2 is 4, I mean, economics, depending on the theory, a lot of it's math and graphs and ability to forecast and model, so it's not a matter of opinion. That aspect of economics is deductive, so we don't have to worry about that. The economic theories, they can't agree among themselves. I mean, if you talk 10 economists, you get 10 different theories. So the theoretical aspects of economics, you just want the language, the framework, not for belief or disbelief, but to understand how others are using terminology. If they're saying inflation is occurring, and we have no idea what inflation is, we can't make a proper business judgment. That doesn't mean that I have to believe in riba. It just means that I have to understand what the person has in mind when they start forecasting inflation, because it's going to have an impact on banking. So if I don't know what the bank is likely to do, I can't plan. So I want to know everything he has in mind when he uses the basic terms of inflation or unemployment or recession or depression. I want to understand these terms as he uses them. But in terms of me then abandoning my views, it's like someone saying atheism is wonderful. You know, I say this is not going to affect me. My faith is not that weak. I'm not so shallow that as soon as I hear something, I give up. No, reason. That's why I say the more we read, the stronger we are mentally. I want the atheists to come. I want the Christians to come. I say, try to persuade me that there's 3 gods in one. Try to persuade me. I want you to bring your best mind.
That means know the devil just to crush the devil.
Yeah. Sorry?
Know the devil, what they do for crushing them.
I just say, no, I said bring them. And what Allah tells me to do is to study and read. Now, if I don't study and read, they're going to embarrass me. No question about it. But why should they study and read and I not study and read? If they believe enough in Christianity to study the Bible and read the Bible, why should I not believe just as much in Islam to study the Quran and the Bible and the Torah and Confucius and Buddha and Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides and Aristophanes and Thucydides? This is all of our knowledge. Allah tells us all knowledge is ours. We don't want to limit ourselves. That's why I'm saying to the young people, don't limit yourself. We want everything we can learn. Bring it back to the Islamic free zone. And we'll take it from there.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam.
It's a pleasure seeing you here tonight.
My pleasure.
I want to ask this question because we are at the moment in the process of not converting but reverting the Muslims back to their deen.
Yes.
And we pay specific emphasis to the people of the Afro-Caribbean diaspora.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you a question here now, and the question is this. As an African-American brother in Islam, could you tell us here tonight, and myself in particular, what is your view of Malcolm X?
Well, I wonder if I can be objective only because he was my friend and I knew him very well. So I may not be... No. I said ask any question. We can't permit friendship to obscure objectivity. We have an obligation to the truth. So I'm going to answer your question. I just wanted to qualify it in case someone said later on, that guy said that, but I don't believe him because he was Malcolm X's friend. So I'm telling you in the beginning so that no one can come behind with any divisive discussion. I have never been a member of the Nation of Islam. I never learned Islam as such from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or from Malcolm X or from Farrakhan. My father was a Muslim and my grandmother was a Muslim. And my family was fortunate enough to maintain a channel of Islam all the way from slavery. My father's from Mandingo tribes. My mother's from the Armar tribes, which is tribes from originally Yemen and Saudi Arabia, then into Morocco. Part of the tribes migrated there. And then during the Songhay Kingdom in Nigeria, they came to that area and they remained there. And some of them were enslaved. And that's how everyone on my mother's side kept the name Armar, because they thought one day they would have to go back to all of their tribes and the tribes would always protect them. So I had an introduction to Islam from my family, but I would be deceitful if I told you that I was a good Muslim. As I grew up as a young person, I really wasn't that interested in Islam. And when my father did the Islamic prayers, it was a little bit embarrassing to me because I lived in an all-white neighborhood. We were a poor family. My father operated a freight elevator in the post office. But he was there first, and then because the neighborhood started building up, it was nice land, eventually became an all-white neighborhood. So we were the only black family. And my friends, they were mostly Christian, and my father would be out there on the ground praying, and I just didn't understand why he couldn't go into the cellar or the basement or someplace and pray, because I had to explain it to my friends. So I never really became involved. I had an experience that I wasn't able to explain when I was 15 years old, my birthday. I had an experience that awoken me regarding Islam and the message of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that experience I put in my book called Nothing from Nothing Leaves Nothing. Apart from that, after I graduated from law school at Berkeley, we sponsored speakers. One of the speakers that we sponsored was Malcolm X, and university declined for him to be able to speak at the university. And so we had some discussions, and he spoke just right across the street. And many of the blacks were fascinated. Why? Because he was whipping on white people. So they weren't listening to the Islamic message, because he went back and he described honestly what happened to us during slavery. It was a cruel time, and we suffered incredibly, as the brothers in the Caribbean know, because the same thing happened. And so as he struck out against whites for the things that were done and the hypocrisy, many blacks said, yeah, Malcolm, get him. Some of the middle class blacks. Now when Malcolm said come to the mosque the next day, no one came, because they used Malcolm as therapy. It was a kind of catharsis. What I respected about Malcolm is that when he was in the penitentiary and he converted, the man read 8 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day. He read about European history, Chinese history. The genius of Malcolm X was that he believed in knowledge. The man read all the time that he could. He kept a very hectic schedule. He probably slept only 4 hours a day, but he was always reading. He met some of my friends and he told them, if you read a book, I don't care what it's on, and you think the book is interesting, call me. Here's my home number. If I'm not there, tell my wife, this is the name of the book Brother Malcolm needs to know. One time on television, he was in a discussion, and the topic came up of Hegler in respect to his view of history. And they asked Malcolm, what did you think about that? And he said, I just have to say, sir, I haven't read that. He was honest. And no one said anything. Malcolm left that television studio and went out and got Hegel. The next time he was on television, they asked him about Hegel. He was ready. This was a sense of mission. Malcolm had a sense of mission. There were a lot of people that hated Malcolm, including the FBI. They tried many things to harass him and to make his life miserable. But there's one thing that the FBI could not do. They could never find any dirt on Malcolm X. They couldn't find one instance where he ever cheated on his wife. They couldn't find one drop of alcohol on his breath. And they were following him night and day. They could not find one cigarette on Malcolm X. They could not find any swine on the plate of Malcolm X. What they found was a man committed to reading and a man who loved his people. When Malcolm X went to Saudi Arabia, he went under the auspices in part. He was co-sponsored, but one of the sponsors took him to Prince Mohammed al-Faisal, who at that time was the son of King Faisal. And Mohammed al-Faisal was impressed with Malcolm. People had known about Malcolm because of his speeches. It was like Muhammad Ali knocking out people who were not Muslims. The Muslims were just praying and fasting. They were happy. Well, when Malcolm, with an 8th grade education, went on television and was slaughtering PhDs intellectually, Muslims were happy, even non-Muslims were happy. They said, how could this man with just an 8th grade education slay the intellectual giant? The reason, Malcolm said, is Allah and I read. The formal education doesn't matter. How much have you read? How committed are you to reading? So Malcolm went to Saudi Arabia, and King Faisal appointed a committee to meet with Malcolm X in Mecca and to teach him about the Quran and give him the right books, so when he got back to the United States, he would not be following those things that were not Islamic. He would eliminate the mystical aspects that are not in the Quran. So they had a committee meet with Malcolm. And Malcolm asked them questions, they asked him questions. And then they reported back to the king and they said, we were shocked. This man knows more about the Quran than we realized. Because he read. So my opinion of Malcolm X is that he was a dedicated man, a man who believed in Islam with all of his heart. He believed in his people, and he believed in justice, and he believed in reading, and he believed that he would die before he would ever surrender any of his principles. He believed in his family, he believed in his children, but the most important thing to him is that he would never compromise a principle based on the Quran. Never.
Thanks you very much, brother.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My question is that I feel that the older generations in the UK are not encouraging the youth and not using the formula, as you're saying, the come alive thing. How can we encourage the parents to use this formula to attract the youth into organizations or groups like Islamic Propagation Center, Islamic Relief? How can we do that?
I think number one, I think the fact that I am here is an indication that the elders of this mosque want the Islamic free zone, because the topic that I'm speaking tonight did not come from me. It's the people at the mosque, the committee at this mosque arranged the topic. They rejected another proposal and preferred this topic. So if the leadership here prefers this topic, it indicates to me the signal is sent that people are ready to mobilize. The next step is ours. The next step is, should we just think about the past and say, well, this didn't happen before and this didn't happen before, so I'm not going to do it. I'm simply saying the signal has been sent. It's a matter now of everyone joining in. It's going to be difficult for some parents who have not read before to start reading. That's a fact. It's going to be difficult, but it's not impossible. So what we have to do is encourage the parents. If you don't know how to read, come to the Islamic Free Zone. Just be honest. We're all one family. We will begin lessons in reading. Whatever it takes, come to the Islamic Free Zone. We can do it. It's a matter of making up our mind. Don't look for distractions. Don't look for failure. Don't look for excuses. Keep your eyes focused. Knowledge, strength, the perfect religion, no deviation. We will definitely make it, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Dr. Khalid, one sees in your speeches a clear highlighting of the external as well as some of the internal problems of the world of Islam. You mentioned national divisions. There are also sectarian divisions which have divided and kept the Muslim backward, divisions which crept into Islam 600 years ago. Yeah. You would notice in Pakistani community, in Indian communities, Bangladeshi communities, there are caste divisions, there are class divisions, but more vicious are the sectarian divisions, yes, which have divided the Muslims. Yeah. How would you advise the young people to cope with these divisions?
The young people should form a united bond based on performance. The way that these sectarian divisions are kept going is to fuel discord, jealousy, and rumors emotionally. You attack one person, attack another person, his family, his relatives, his village, start rallying around him, and it means you soon have a war. Everyone's saying jihad, everyone's saying Allahu Akbar, but confusion and violence reigning. How do you prevent that? First of all, you have to develop the maturity to control your personality so that you don't become subject to flattery, envy, and jealousy. If someone comes up and tells you, Mr. So-and-so and Brother so-and-so said this about you, say Allahu Akbar. The natural inclination to say, who do they think they are? I know why they said that. 1/1,000,000th of a second, extinguish it. What we do is we get on the telephone and we call our friends and say, do you know what so-and-so said about me? And you know he said the same thing about you. Allahu Akbar. That's what kills it. That's what stops it. So we have to tell our young people, Ramadan, Allahu Akbar, we will not let these divisions come between us. That's determination and willpower. That's the most difficult thing. It's easier to pass out flyers. It's easier to hand out Quran. The most difficult thing is to look at your ego and control that devilish proclivity to disobey Allah. 1/1,000,000th of a second. If you wait 1 second, it's too late. Because it would have penetrated and you will get puffed up and your eyes start rolling and your skin starts bubbling. It takes 1/1,000,000th of a second to extinguish it and let it go. Let it go. Allahu Akbar, let it go. And the more you do it, the more strong or strength you derive. And then the sectarians disappear. There's no way for them to fuel the division. The young people grow up and they don't say, are you this, are you this? Are you from that village? And if you're from that area, you can't marry into this area. And if you're from that area, you can't marry. The children begin to bring the real Islam. All they say is, that's interesting. Could you show me that in the Quran?
Yeah, but the children sometimes, the young people are unable to resist that, especially when it comes to the mosque. It comes through the parents.
Right, but I'm saying that we are young. When I say young people, I'm not just talking about teenagers. We are the people. So if there's only a few people that keep confusion, most people don't want confusion. Most people want to live in peace. But it is just a handful, either for greed or corruption, who keep the turbulence moving. So you don't have to even get mad at them. You don't have to insult them. Just pray for them. But the masses of people do what? They say Allahu Akbar. And when the leaders see that the masses can't be swayed, they're clever. They will say that side of it is over. It won't work anymore. What conveys the message? We must do it. We rely too much on the leaders. We say, well, this is my excuse. You go and tell Allah. I would have done what you said in the Quran, but the Imam we had, he was old-fashioned. Allah is not going to accept that. He says, here is the scale. You get on the scale. Here's the truth on the other side. You either pass or you don't. Why would you jeopardize hell because of a few clicks? We have the responsibility to go deep within ourselves, surround ourselves with people who think like we think and who believe like we believe, who want to do work and get the job done. They ain't looking for titles. They're not looking for recognition. They don't care whether you give them an award or you don't give them an award. All they want to know is this in the Quran, is this the will of Allah? Allahu Akbar, get the job done, as Sheikh Ahmed says.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Mansoor. It's nice to see you in London again. It's a pleasure to have you here. Brother, I agree with you that there is no Christian accounting, but I know there is a Jewish accounting system. I'd just like to say that as far as your comments made about the business group, the Muslim businessmen coming together, I think that is very important. But I believe that Allah has said in the Quran, Ummatun wasatun, we have created you a pivotal nation, and therefore I feel, I don't know if you agree with me, that we should get also the Muslim scientists together, the Muslim doctors together, and the various groups. And this is so important now, especially since we are coming to an age, a mature age in the Muslim development worldwide, where we are going to face a lot of attacks in various political, economic, and medical fields.
Absolutely. I think that for a community, you can't do everything at once. You got to start somewhere. I took business because that's the basis of your livelihood. If you're going to get jobs and you're going to be able to move ahead. But certainly the lawyers, the doctors, the professionals, the workers, the masters, the union people, we all need to be together individually and collectively. Because there's sometimes lawyers need to talk lawyer talk among themselves that some people wouldn't understand and they might misinterpret. The same with doctors. So we need individual groups and we need collective groups. I think that that is happening. When I was in South Africa, I spoke to the medical profession Muslim, the legal profession Muslims. In the United States, that has taken place. We just need to network it within the country and across country borders. We need to know who are the Russian Muslim lawyers and the Russian Muslim doctors, because they've been doing things over there that could help us over here. We need to interact, but we have to do it practically. We can't send all the doctors to Russia or bring all the Russian doctors here. They may not have the money. So we have to devise communications, the computer.
Sure.
We have to talk to each other, but I agree with you absolutely.
Also, one more thing. We have a Muslim business group that has begun in London. And if anybody is interested, we'd like to work also with you on your project and so on.
Good.
And we'd like you to join us.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a few questions, but most of them have been answered. But I have one question which I would like to put forward. In junior schools under the educational curriculum, they teach children under 10 about human biology, where they show images of men and women, hidden ornaments. Under Islam, should this be done, and what can we Muslims do about it?
Well, first of all, I would teach my children about what the Quran says about the body. Now, human anatomy by itself is not haram, because the medical profession is based upon human anatomy. It's an inductive method, it's trial and error. But I think there's a difference between using a skeleton or using other forms for the purposes of cadavers, for studying the histology or cytology involved in the body makeup, and promoting sexuality. And I think that in Africa, you find some areas where people go nude. I mean, it's hot, they have not worn clothes, but there's no licentiousness. People are not staring and gazing like they do television commercials. And why? Because the context of the environment and the people and their attitude is such that they don't cater to their base emotions. I think that the mere fact that if I saw a picture of someone who is unclothed, I would tell my child, if this is the book you're reading, let me tell you what is acceptable and what is not acceptable about this image. I would then go to the school and I would tell them, if the purpose of this picture is to convey the anatomy of a human being, may I suggest that it can be done the same way without violating our faith. And let me bring you a picture of a skeleton, since the purpose is just to examine the tissue. Let me bring you a skeleton that would satisfy your objectives and satisfy my objective. Because if I don't, the first thing they're going to do is say, well, I don't know what is offensive to you. Bring me what is acceptable. So I would go to the teacher with what I deem to be acceptable for instruction in school. However, I would never rely on that alone. Because whether it's one picture or one statement or one impression that's conveyed, I would still assume the responsibility to fortify my child with the proper Islamic framework at home, every day.
I think the ladies want to have put up a question somewhere, if you could give them a chance.
All right. All right. I'm told that the women will have the last say.
You say your religion is the right religion, but how is it that, for example, you say that a thief must have his hand chopped off and an adulterer must to be stoned to death. Now, I think that cutting a thief's hand off, where he's really not stolen because he was hungry, for example, might in fact be a good punishment in the sense that maybe no one would ever steal then. But I don't know what you think, and I don't know what you think about stoning someone to death as well, which seems very harsh.
Well, I think that in practical terms, the stoning applies to adultery, and in order for a person to be convicted of adultery, there has to be 4 witnesses. So for all practical purposes, you'll never see a stoning for adultery. The hand cutting is a different situation. The amputation of the hand is rarely done on the first offense. A person is warned of what they're doing to other people, what they are violating, the principle that they are affirming. Now, if they disregard that and flaunt the value of a human life, then they are carrying a punishment that will be just a microcosm of the punishment that will occur in the afterlife. If you think losing a hand is severe, what about eternity with your soul? All right. All right. Are there any more questions? If not, no, they told me we have, but I'll stay here to answer. But these will be all the public questions. I would like to thank you again very much for coming. You've been very kind and very patient. I would like to remind you that I'm going to be speaking every day. And I need you there because you inspire me. So please come out and tell your friends. Tell those who have been asking you questions about Islam, and maybe you didn't feel comfortable to answer. Tell them to come. Tell the Christians to come. Tell the Jews to come. All of the people on your job, your friends, your family, tell them to come to the lectures so that we can exchange ideas together and build a stronger family for the 21st century. Thank you very much. Allah Salaam.
Just before I hand back to the Imams, I would ask you all to take your seats, please. Let's finish it properly in an Islamic way. Just before we finish, I'd like to thank once again the committee of the Harrow Mosque for allowing us to bring Dr. Khalid al-Mansoor and giving us a wonderful lecture. The best we can do, as I've said before, was to start this Islamic free zone and show Dr. Khalid when he comes next time that the Muslims of Harrow have done something. In addition to that, we have the stalls outside on which the Holy Quran by Abdullah Yusuf Ali is available. It's a special discount price for this week, £5 each. In order for us to bring Dr. Khalid again, we need some income, therefore we need you to buy the Qurans. So please make sure that we go home without any Qurans. We also have the videos by Dr. Khalid al-Mansoor of his South African lecture tour and also of Sheikh Didat. Thank you very much once again, and I'll ask the Imam Sahib to wind up.
ख्वातीन हज़रात, मैं सिर्फ आप हज़रात का शुक्रिया अदा करने के लिए हाज़िर हुआ हूँ। मैं अपनी तरफ से और हैरो के तमाम मुसलमानों की तरफ से और ख़ुसूसन हैरो सेंट्रल मॉस्क कमेटी की तरफ से डॉक्टर खालिद अल-मंसूर का दिल की अथाह गहराइयों से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ कि जिन्होंने इतना मसरूफ़ जिनका वक़्त है, कीमती वक़्त में से हमारे लिए इतना वक़्त निकाला है। और तमाम हज़रात जो आप यहाँ तशरीफ़ लाए हैं, मैं आपका भी दिल की गहराइयों से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ। जिस तरह आप हज़रात ने आज इतना वक़्त दिया है, अगर आप हज़रात इसी तरह तशरीफ़ लाते रहे तो इंशाअल्लाह हम मज़ीद इसी तरह के प्रोग्राम करते रहेंगे। और इस सिलसिले में अगर मैं अपने अज़ीज़ मोहतरम शाहिद अकमल का शुक्रिया अदा ना करूँ तो मैं समझता हूँ कि ये बड़ी बेइंसाफ़ी होगी कि जिन्होंने हमारे लिए ये मौका फ़राहम किया है। खुदावंद कुद्दूस हर मुसलमान नौजवान को इसी तरह इस्लामी जज्बा अता फ़रमाए और इस मुल्क के अंदर जितने मुसलमानों के बच्चे हैं सबको खुदा इसी तरह दीन इस्लाम की खिदमत की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाए। आखिर में बारगाह मुस्तफ़ा सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम में नजराना अक़ीदत के तौर पर एक शेर सलातो व सलाम का पेश किया जाता है और उसके साथ ही दुआ होगी। एक मरतबा फिर तमाम हज़रात का मैं शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ। تمام حضرات کھڑے ہو جائیے تاکہ بارگاہ مصطفیٰ میں ہدیہ صلاۃ وسلام. سلام علیکہ یا رسول سلام علیکہ یا حبیب سلام علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ. طلع البدر علینا من ثنیات الوداع وجب شکر علینا ما دعا للہ داعی. یا نبی سلام علیکہ یا رسول سلام علیکہ یا حبیب سلام علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ صلوات اللہ علیکہ. یا الہی صدقہ زلف رسول یہ سلام عاجزانہ ہو قبول. السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ الصلاۃ والسلام علیکم یا حبیب اللہ. الہ العالمین تمام مسلمان جو یہاں حاضر ہوئے ہیں ان سب کی حاضری کو قبول فرما. الہ العالمین جتنے بھی مسلمان اس جگہ موجود ہیں ان کی تمام مشکلات کو آسان فرما. آج کے اس اجتماع کے طفیل اپنے نیک بندوں کے طفیل عالم اسلام پر رحم و کرم فرما. دنیا کے تمام مسلمانوں کو آپس میں اتفاق اور اتحاد عطا فرما. الہ العالمین جتنے بھی مسلمان کسی مصیبت کے اندر مبتلا ہیں ان کو تمام مصائب کو دور فرما. یا اللہ خصوص بالخصوص فلسطین، کشمیر، افغانستان اور دنیا کے اندر جہاں کہیں مسلمان مظلومیت کی زندگی گزار رہے ہیں انہیں آزادی عطا فرما. الہ العالمین ہم سب کے دلوں کی قدورتوں کو دور فرما. الہ العالمین ہم سب کو اسلام پہ استقامت عطا فرما. ہمارے نوجوان نسل جو اس ملک کے اندر ہے الہ العالمین ان کو اسلام پہ استقامت عطا فرما تاکہ بڑے ہو کر یہ اس تیرے دین مصطفیٰ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی احسن طریقے سے خدمت انجام دے سکیں. الہ العالمین جو حضرات بھی یہاں کسی مصیبت پریشانی کی وجہ سے نہیں آ سکے ہیں ان کی مشکلات کو بھی آسان فرما. الہ العالمین ڈاکٹر صاحب نے یہاں جو لیکچر دیا ہے جس طرح یہ دین کی خدمت کر رہے ہیں ان کے علم عمر مال جان اولاد میں برکت عطا فرما. صلی اللہ تعالی علی خیر خلقہ سیدنا مولانا محمد وعلی آلہ واہل بیتہ وصحبہ اجمعین. Thank you very much.
Brothers and sisters, inshallah, tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock, Brent Town Hall. We'll see you there.